I'm Alison Smith. We began Canadian victory at Vimy Ridge. Almost 3,600 Canadians died, pushing the Germans back from the strategic position. It was the first clear victory for the Allied forces in World War I. There are only a few Canadian veterans left, and 13 of them participated in today's ceremony. One of the veterans of Vimy is John Close. He's from Ontario, and today he's a long way from home. He went back to France to mark the anniversary, to revisit the battle scene, and to remember the friends he left there so long ago. The CBC's Dan Bjarnasson shared the trip and the memories.
75 years ago, I was Private John Close, number 739656, attached to A Company of the Royal Canadian Regiment. And we had been training for a month to take this ridge called Vimy Ridge.
3/4 of a century ago, John Close was a dashing young lad from Hagersville, Ontario, who went off to war on the other side of the world.
This is my cell. You can't tell anybody what it's like to be in a trench and be shelled perhaps for an hour with shells bursting all around you. They're all gone.
Before setting out on his return to Vimy, John Close visits the Hagersville War Memorial to think on friends that he's left in France.
Peter Laidlaw, yes, Peter Laidlaw, yeah.
And now the dream he's been nursing for 75 years, a return to the battlefield, a reunion with some of the last survivors.
Not going to start thinking about Vimy till we get off the plane. I'm just now trying to survive the trip.
Well, my father...
For his daughter Margaret on her first plane trip, it's an adventure flight into the past.
Like seeing the pages of a history book open and come to life, and being able to be with my father, who loves history as much as I love history.
Little of this looks like it did then. Now it's trees and grass. Then it was mud and slime and rats and shell holes and craters where wounded men would crawl for cover and drown in the muck. Sections of the trenches here have been preserved in concrete. Thousands of unexploded artillery shells still lie just beneath the soil. Sheep are used to cut the grass. Each year, a few are lost in the process.
These would be Canadian trenches.
A veteran shows his daughter where he and his friends made history.
You had to be able to shoot over, you see, the top, so there'd be what they call fire steps on our side. I don't know what the Germans had.
This is where 30,000 Canadian soldiers left their trenches Easter Monday morning in 1917 and stormed the German strongpoints.
They tunneled under there and blew out maybe a German trench, and they'd blow it out.
In the dawn attack, Vimy Ridge was taken by midday. But 3,000 Canadians were killed, 7,000 wounded, among them John Close. Visiting British schoolgirls find his story fascinating.
A bullet went through my rifle about right there, and the bayonet it fell off, and then the splinters hit me steel up here, and as my leg come up, the bullet went in my leg and come out my bum.
It wasn't a laughing matter, but he crawled back through there.
It's a tale that's lost none of its drama. The daughter senses the peril the father faced those decades ago.
5 of us went out, and one of the guys got wounded, and the other 4 carried him out, and they left me there alone, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
That was your first night?
That was my first night in the trenches.
The Vimy Memorial now is on the site of the strongpoint called simply the Pimple, where the last German soldiers fought it out.
And that's where I got wounded from machine gun fire from this Pimple. Dozens of cemeteries like that, see the extent all over.
And at the nearby Canadian cemetery, a melancholy visit.
You know, we feel grateful that you've survived, but...
There was a lot didn't.
Back in Hagersville, Ontario, John Close recited in Flanders Fields every Remembrance Day. Here among friends, he's moved to do it again.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row that mark our
In World War I, 66,000 Canadians were buried in Flanders fields and in other cemeteries that dot France and Belgium.
If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders fields. And you...
I know, Daddy.
You say Daddy repeats this at the 160th.
I know you do, Dad. You carried on that tradition ever since you've been the last one left.
I've carried on that tradition in the 164th branch at Hagersville because First World War vets started it, and I happen to now be the only one left to carry it on.
Today, the commemoration ceremony on the very height the Canadians stormed 75 years ago this morning. For John Close and his comrades, a pilgrimage to honor friends who lie in French soil nearby. For News Magazine, I'm Dan Bjarnasson, CBC News on Vimy Ridge.